is Leonard Jr. For those who were not able to go out to the Wessington plantation with us this morning, we had a great affair. We really missed out. We started out at the Kroger parking lot.
Good. Same.
We don't feel behind you.
I told her, wait a minute.
No, you can't tell him to wait. We don't want to make a move. This is my other nephew. I ain't never had no kind of picture or anything with him.
On Clarksville Highway, we boarded a luxurious bus. We had great conversation on the way down. When I was actually taking time off work to come down here, a friend of mine, he asked me, he said, Jeff, he said, I see you taking some days off work. He said, where are you going? What are you going to be doing? And I told him I was coming to my family's 62nd consecutive family reunion. And he asked me, he said, Jeff, how does a family have 62 consecutive family reunions? He said, my family, we have reunions also. We may go 1 year, skip 2, go another year, somebody gets mad at someone, and we skip 3 more. Right? He said, how does a family have 62 consecutive family reunions? And when he asked me the question, I couldn't answer it at the time. But as I drove home from Atlanta, Georgia to Nashville, Tennessee, I thought about this issue a little closer. And granted, there are millions of reasons as to why we've had 62 of these occasions. But I've watched this family over the years, and I've come up with 3 core values that this family possesses that's enabled us to have 62 consecutive family reunions. And I'm going to share them with everybody. The first core value is a vision. And a vision is something William and Mary Dixon had 62 years ago with family members that's morphed into the occasion that we're experiencing today. That next core value is organization. Where is it going to be? Who's going to have it? What are they going to bring me? That third and final core value is execution. You must first visualize this, organize it, and then execute it. Those are 3 of the main core values that the Leonards, the Dixons, the Basses, the Gates, we've all possessed over the years that's enabled this reunion to take place. And hopefully going forward, we will continue to have those same core values that will further success of this occasion.
Welcome to the 62nd Dixon Family Reunion. A special thanks to John F. Baker Jr., historian and genealogist.
I've been doing research on Wessington Plantation for about 32 years now, and I've been actively writing the book for about 3 years. When I first saw the photograph in my 7th grade history book, for some reason I kept being drawn to this picture, and it looked like I should know the people like they were relatives. And I later found out from my grandmother that they were actually her grandparents. So I became totally fascinated at that point with tracing our family history. There were hundreds of people that lived here on the plantation. It was probably never quiet, that many people being here. I often wondered what they were thinking while they were here. I'm sure they were praying that they would one day be emancipated. One reason it is very important to document African American history because a lot relating to African American history is not recorded from the African American perspective. Most of what we have about African American history is written from the slave owner, but I've been able to get more of an accurate viewpoint from their side of the story. In 1860, Wessington contained 13,000 acres in one farm. They also owned more than 2,000 acres in Tennessee and Kentucky. This was the largest tobacco plantation in America and the 2nd largest in the world. A lot of African Americans cannot document their family histories. One of the major things that I was able to do in my research, most of the information that I got as far as oral histories could be documented in the Washington family papers. The Washington family deposited all their records in the Tennessee State Library and Archives. It is extremely rare to have photographs of African Americans from such an early period. We have some photographs from as early as 1849, many of them in the late 1880s, 90s, and early 1900s. I think it would be very important for young African Americans and young people in general to read the book because a lot of people do not realize what all the slaves went through, especially young African Americans. A lot of things they take for granted and they have no idea how our ancestors had to live. I feel somehow that it was meant for me to find all this information. One of my great aunts always told me that it was meant for me to do this research. And she said that my ancestors found me instead of me finding them. When I spoke to Miss Talbot and told her about my ancestry here, and she said, well, everyone knows who your great-great-grandfather was because his portrait is still in the living room. And this is a portrait that Washington commissioned to paint of my great-great-grandfather, Emmanuel Washington, and it's worth about $25,000. Miss Talbot also brought out about 12 legal-sized documents which recorded the births of the slaves on the plantation from 1795 to 1860. And your all's ancestor Avery was born September 8, 1805. And that's also detailed in the history that I have. And this is one page of many such documents. In 1964, the Washington family deposited all the plantation records in the Tennessee State Library and Archives. White Washingtons that owned Wessington, and they also had this photograph. This time, the slaves' names were listed. My maternal grandmother happened to be visiting us from Chicago, and she spent the weekend with one of her brothers in Cedar Hill. And at the conclusion of her visit, she called my mother and told my mother to have me to bring a camera because she had something she wanted me to photograph. And I asked my mother, I said, what does Big Mama want me to take a camera out to Uncle Bob's in the middle of the night for? And my mother was very stern. She said, boy, just get the camera like she said, you'll find out when you get there. So when I got there, my grandmother showed me this photograph, and I said, Grandmother, that picture's in our 7th grade social studies book. Who is that? So she pointed to the gentleman seated, and she said, that's my grandfather, Emmanuel Washington, and he was a cook on the Washington.
How you doing?
All right. That's good.
Prince got him. He passed him now. He said cemetery.
You doing all right, young man?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. Someone asked him when he was going to get married, and he said, well, I'll wait till this little girl grows up and I'll marry her, which is what he did in 1812 when she was 16 and he was 42. After his death, the plantation passed on to his son, George A. Washington here, who was born here in 1815. He was born in the mansion here. The mansion was started in 1815 and it was completed in 1819. This is his wife, Jane Smith Washington.
Okay, so they want us to move up there.
Your mama getting good thing.
You know what?
Hey,
James.
It's seen better days, but I drove it last night, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
James,
It's seen better
is
days.
this your first time out here?
Yeah, my first time.
That's all right, man. That's what Wayne was telling me. It's his first time too. I've never been out here. This is good history right here, ain't it?
Yeah, this is serious.
This is serious right here.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you.
Jonathan was just speaking to us. It'd be good if the family could get together and buy some land out here somewhere.
You know, that could explain the expectations inside of the family. It could explain how everybody had high expectations for owning property.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Because of what they came from. They've seen it.
After I met Miss Talbot here, she told me that the Washington family deposited all their records in the Tennessee State Library and Archives in Nashville. It's over 11,000 documents, and I've gone through all of these, not only tracing my ancestry, but the ancestries of everyone that was ever enslaved here. This is one copy of a slave bill of sale, which was for my great-great-great-grandmother, who was bought in Sussex County, Virginia, when she was 10 years old, she and her 12-year-old sister. She was the mother of Emmanuel, my great-great-grandfather, that was featured in the photograph. All right. This is a receipt for a runaway slave. His name was Albert, and this was in 1843. So there are many documents in this collection where I'm able to trace back the different slave families' ancestors. This is a tax list from 1860. Slave owners had to pay taxes on their slaves, and these little groups are individuals in each household that are classified as being taxable if they were from 12 to 50 years old. If they were older than 50, they were not taxable. And your all's ancestor Marion is listed on this tax document.
Thank you.
And this is a document I can find. On the other side of that fence, in a half arch all the way down to where the land flattens out, were the slave cabins. And in 1860, there were 40 cabins which housed 274 enslaved individuals here, which was the largest slave population in the state of Tennessee.
Sure.
In 2014, the Tennessee State Museum did an exhibit based on my book called Slaves and Slave Owners Who Went to the Plantation, and they built a model of how the plantation would have looked, and this represents about 80 acres of a plantation. You can see the big house, the circle is drive in the front, and then these slave cabins and other buildings. And the exhibit was toured by at least 70,000 visitors. There's also a documentary which many of you may have seen called Wessington Plantation: A Family's Road to Freedom, and you can find it on YouTube. I was very fortunate when I started my research because there were probably 20 to 25 individuals who were descendants, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Wessington slaves, ranging in age from 80 to 107 years old. So they gave me stories that I was not able to find all of it in documents. Some of the documentation did back up their stories. This gentleman was Joseph Washington, and I met him on his 102nd birthday, and he died a week before he turned 107 years old. He lived next door to my great-great-grandfather and mother, and he told me that my great-great-grandfather had a beautiful singing voice, and he used to lead most of the songs in their devotional services on the plantation. This other lady is Ann Nixon Cooper, and you may have seen her on CNN. She's the lady that President Obama mentioned voting for him when she was over 100 years old. And at age 103, she could do the electric slide and heel. Mrs. Cooper was raised by a lady, George Washington Nixon, who was born a slave here in Wessington. This is a tobacco field here on Wessington Plantation. At its peak, Wessington contained 13,100 acres, which was literally as far as the eye could see. And in 1860, the slaves here produced 250,000 pounds of dark fire tobacco, making this the largest tobacco producer in the United States and the second largest in the world. When I was a small child, my father used to take me on horseback, and he would point to different buildings and tell me where the various slaves lived, and he could tell you exactly how they were related to one another. And she said, he took me to the slave cemetery, and even as a child, she said, I felt something wasn't right about that because there was nothing to mark their graves, and I felt that our family should have done something about that. So she sent me money to have a monument erected in the slave cemetery, which recorded 39 names of individuals at that time. Other descendants donated funds to have this monument erected, and it has the names of 445 individuals that were enslaved here on the plantation from 1796 to 1865. And this is you all's ancestor, Marion Sims Green, and she was born here in 1838. Her mother was born here in 1805.
She was a house servant. This is her husband, Joseph A. Green, Josephus Green. He was born in 1840 in Springfield, and he was owned by a plantation owner. This is you all's family tree, and it spans 5 generations. And Cheryl is going to get the rest of the family for me down to the present time. So the next time you have a reunion, hopefully, I'll have a larger family tree that goes down to the present time.
Yeah, some people don't sit, we ain't gonna get everybody.
All right, we're good.
Okay. Like, you see that door under that window? That had room for slaves to stay in, and back behind that motorcycle, some of them lived in there. And then some of the people lived in it. That's the kitchen.
Is this the actual bricks?
Yeah.
Really? They just put the siding up later?
Yeah.
And that side,
that's original brick. It was a lady.
Yellow is new.
Yeah. It was a lady that went to church with me, and her great-grandmother, she was 90-something, but her great-grandmother lived to be 104, and she said when they were children, down there where the stream is, she said they went and collected clay, brought it up here on the hill, and the adults molded and made bricks.
Boy.
It's a creek down there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not too far from this road.
Is this part of the land?
As far as you can see, the man that owns it now.
Okay. You know how many acres that is?
2,732 acres.
Gave them that long life of walking up these hills.
And pack it in there in the ground and put sawdust and straw over it.
So this is the ice house.
The ice house.
Yeah.
Let me hang out in there.
That's where they would make the butter and all of that.
I know, I thought so.
This is the tomb of Joseph Washington, and he was born in Virginia in 1770. He died here in 1848. After his son became of age, he turned the management over into his care, which was George A. Washington. At the time of his death, he held more than $1 million in stocks and bonds, and he was also vice president of the Nashville and of the L&N Railroad and several others. His plate and smushed up stuff on his plate. He said, "I'm not eating this." He said, "I was raised in Washington. I was raised on better stuff than you." So they had that.
So the slaves even kind of had a bougie.
Yeah.
Because they was treated like you.
Like they took care of the kids and stuff like that.
Okay.
But some people think that people prefer that. But see, if you worked in the house, you're under constant surveillance. You got to be on best behavior, so to speak, if you work in the house. And then if you working out in the field, when your work for the day is done, it's over with.
Gotcha.
But if you work in the house, you on call 24/7.
Damn.
And plus, if you're in the house, you risk more. Okay. Being molested or something.
Okay. So 200 bodies is buried here.
Yeah, they were slaves. Because after they were free, they moved to Nashville.
Oh, I got you.
They moved to Nashville a little after 1900.
Oh, I got you.
Let's see.
So any of our ancestors on
This is
here?
your great. How do you fit in?
Leonard, Mary Pitt.
Mary Pitt is your what?
We from the Greens.
Great-grandmama.
Okay, Mary Pitt is your great-grandmother.
Right.
So Ellen is your 2 greats.
Right.
Marion is your 3 greats, so this is your 4 great.
Oh, right here. Erie Lavelle, Washington. Okay.
Well, where is the Green name up here too? Or it's not up here because the Greens were the ones
Well, Marion's on here. Because this is not everybody that's buried here. This is everybody that was ever enslaved here. Here's Miriam right here. Miriam Sims Green. And see, on some of her children's death certificates, she's listed as Sims, son, Level, and son, Washington.
So she lived through the emancipation, so she was free.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you, Lord. I just want to thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you, Lord.
The people within dispense are all over this whole country.
Within the circumference.
Wow, 200 people.
Thank you, Lord. Yes, I just want to thank you. Oh, Lord. You've been so good. You've been so good to me. You have been so good. So good. You've been so good. I just wanna thank you, Lord. Well, thank you. Thank you, dear Father. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. I want to thank you, Lord. Yeah. I just want to thank you. And I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for the rainy days. Thank you for the sunshiny days. Everything, all things work together for good. All the ingredients count. The bitter and the sweet. It's like making a stew. With all that I've been through, all that I've lost, all that I've gained, all that I've sustained, there was always an eternal, essential thank you. A thanking person is a thinking person. That means you're conscious of the benefits. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me. Bless His holy name. One of the scriptures of the Old Testament. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, and forget not all His benefits. We have to be very careful not to forget the benefits. He heals all our diseases. He forgives all our iniquities. He fills our mouths with good things. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lord. Oh, and I just want to thank you, Lord.
May I ask everyone to stand for a lift every voice and sing.